What is up, everybody? It is Monday, June 14th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, earlier than I'm used to going live. But today I have a guest from across the world, so it seemed perfect. Now, we all know that India FUD has been crazy. One day India bans crypto, one day India loves crypto, and it's back and forth, and nobody really knows what is going on there. Well, today I have, fortunately, a guest to join us. Now, listen, as crypto traders and investors, we expect a lot from the exchanges and platforms we use every day. So imagine the stress of keeping up with demands of exchange users in the second most populated country in the world, which is India. Well, today's guest is the co-founder of India's largest crypto exchange and has agreed to come on and talk about everything. Like I said, going on in India, is there a ban? Is there not a ban? What could the Supreme Court do? He's going to help us better understand what's going on over there. After all, he is the expert. So Neeraj Khandelwal, thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
Thank you, Scott, for having me here.
So I'm really excited because, like I said, it's so hard to discern what is fact and fiction. And I know that you've been through every probably challenge here. And I wanted to make it clear to everybody, by the way, this is an AMA. So I'm going to ask a few questions. We're going to get going, but we really want you guys to participate and ask questions as the audience. So can you first tell us at a very high level, what is happening? Do we have to worry about a ban, or is that not something that's a reality?
That's a good question, right to the point, Scott. It's a long story. Frankly, it's a long story, and it's a story of how Indian community has withstood so many challenges, right? In order to create wealth, one of the very easiest or emerging ways is to invest some of the parts of our savings in crypto, right? In this emerging asset class. And so much hopes, and Indians have been investing in crypto since 2015. Very early adopters, and this is a strong community of 10 million people who have invested billions of dollars in crypto, right? And after 2017 bull run, suddenly the Central Bank of India put a banking ban, fearing some kind of economic instability and foreign exchange violations and so on and so forth. And post that, it has been a great deal of hard work by the crypto community, which has been put in across fighting battles in Supreme Court, getting support of the mainstream media, getting support of some of the very fantastic, bright lawyers in the country, and finally winning a case in the Supreme Court of India against the Central Bank of India, on the grounds of fundamental rights, and finally seeing crypto as becoming more and more mainstream over the past few years. So this is India, where it's a strong community and it's growing day by day.
So actually, you said there's 10 million people. Is that accurate that you think are crypto? I mean, it's a very, very small percentage for such a huge country, right?
Yes, that means there's a huge potential. I mean, it's 10 million absolute terms. It's a very large number, but then in terms of percentage, it's very small, right? And 10 million people have invested, but a billion people know about it and they want to invest. They are waiting to invest, in this new asset class. So that's something which is huge.
So at this moment, what is the status with the banks? Because I know that this has to be a huge challenge for you as an exchange CEO if people want to use you as an on and off ramp for crypto. If at any given day the bank says you can or can't do that, that has to be a huge challenge.
Yes, it's a huge challenge, not just for exchanges, but in fact it's a challenge for the community itself, right? And so in terms of the banks, when Supreme Court judgment came out in favor of the cryptocurrency community, right? We were all very cheerful, and even CoinDCX, for example, had tie-ups with 4 national banks, right? And we were having all the access to banking, and for like 1 year we have been growing at a very rapid pace. The whole community with the full banking support, with all the payment gateways, UPI support, right? And we had everything. And recently, we have been facing some challenges again. So to put things in perspective, just 5 months ago, the government RBI again, tried to kind of put some kind of restrictions on the industry going via the parliament. This time going for a complete banning of the industry of Bitcoin itself, right? But then there was a huge uproar from the industry, huge lashing on the Twitter, which was done by the industry, and big personalities like Nandan Nilekani, they all came out in public in support of the industry. And that banning bill then was not placed in the parliament and completely discarded, right? And post that, we had all the access to banks, and we were growing very fast. Is when now recently banks also realize that the industry, while it needs to grow, the whole nation has realized that the industry needs to grow, but there needs to be certain checks in place, checks to prevent any kind of illicit activities, right? Which we know that crypto is well capable of doing that. So right now the status is very simple. We are working with banks to provide the right set of compliance to the industry, right? For example, we are putting in place new KYC and AML clauses, AML rules on the platform for deposits and withdrawals of the Indian rupees, so that the industry remains clean, fully clean, so that it can grow. Once it's very clean, then it can always grow bigger and bigger, right? So that is the objective.
Yeah, I mean, I think in every country we know that regulation is inevitable, right? But it seems that we just want the regulation to be smart and to work with the people who understand it. It feels like the crypto, I mean, maybe it's because we're all sort of maximalists and we live this every day, but it feels like it gets help so many people, especially in a country like India. And it's not really a threat to the government to any great degree. I mean, they should embrace it. Do you agree? Sorry, yeah.
I lost the last part, just 5 seconds.
Oh, I said that you would think that they would embrace it, that the government would embrace something like this because it can help so many people in the country.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So just a few months ago, Nirmala Sitharaman, who is the finance minister of India, openly mentioned that they are open to experimentation with crypto. And then where we have seen various signals from the government, for in favor of crypto. For example, Ministry of Corporate Affairs recently announced that all the institutions who hold, who have exposure to the asset class, they need to report that to the government, right? So it's a very positive sign. That means that the government, I mean, they didn't say that don't buy it. They said, let us know about it, which is fine. Right?
That's normal. Yeah, if you buy stock, you have to tell the government. I mean, that's normal.
Yes. So there has been very good signs from the government, all the agencies, right? And then recently RBI itself announced that the banks will follow AML and KYC clauses when dealing with cryptocurrencies, right? Now that's a huge positive. Of course, RBI is also cautious. Is giving cautions to people that it's a risky asset class, it's a volatile asset class. So take the decisions appropriately accordingly. But at the same time, we also know that the RBI has clearly said that banks need to follow all the AML and KYC clauses when they are dealing with cryptocurrencies, and that is what is happening at the moment. At the moment, the payment gateways that we are working with, they are strengthening the infrastructure for AML and KYC, right? And we are just getting done with that. And as soon as we are at par with some great standards of compliances, we would be growing back again with a super fast pace that we had been doing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm seeing a lot of comments over here that are about young people in India are the ones who invested. I'm a college student. We're learning more about crypto. Another one, young people are invested. Are you seeing that this really is a generational thing, that it's much younger people that are part of that 10 million?
Yes, you're absolutely right. The person who is saying this is absolutely right, simply because India has a huge demographic dividend, right? The average age of India is one of the youngest in the world, and there is a huge digital penetration, right? Mobile penetration, internet penetration is huge in India, right? We are very much ahead in payments, and all this is driven by the young people, right? And even in crypto, we see that people who have never even invested in stock, people young people who never went to stock market to invest, right? They are also a significant chunk of the crypto investor community. So it just the crypto industry is in fact driven by the vigor and the energies that the young people bring into it. So you're absolutely right in saying that, and we will see to we'll see this continuous trend where we have more and more young people joining it.
So Abbas would like to know, has there been any improvement discussion with regards to onboarding banking partners for Indian exchanges since the banks had last stopped providing services for the same? I know you've addressed that a bit, but maybe.
Yes, yes. Right now we are already in talks with two more national banks, right? So we have the banking accounts already, and we are continuously dealing with the banks on that front. It's more about doing it at scale. When you do it for millions of users, you need to be very compliant, and you need to take care of a lot of factors, right? You need to control it in a manner that it's being used for the right purposes, for the investment purposes. So right now with the banking partners, banks have been very supportive for to us in the last 15 days to 1 month, and it's the only thing that we are right now doing is strengthening the compliance, so that we are able to bring up the deposits and withdrawals at scale for all of the people, right? That is the objective right now. So for example, we are already bringing the UPI, which is very much sought after deposit method. UPI is Unified Payment Interface, so that is going to come up very soon on the platform, and along with all the other deposit methods like direct bank transfer, standard bank transfer, fast bank transfer, and UPI at the end. So we are working on all of it, and it's going to come up very soon.
Great. We're getting some great questions here, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask them. How is the education system changing to support crypto and the market? Do you see a shift occurring?
Oh, that's a good question.
It is.
In fact, education system has been supporting crypto, in the background, even before the crypto was born. Simply because, Indian, it's a well-known fact that for the past 30 years, Indians have grown significantly when it comes to the information technology, and this information technology comes from the education itself, right? You will find millions of developers, millions of people who are very experts of software, right? Indians are kind of leaders in the software industry, and it all comes from the education sector. It's very common to see people coding at a very early age, even in 8th class. When they are 10 or 12 of years old. And our college, we have a lot of computer science colleges. India, for example, 80% of students go for engineering, right? In India, it's very engineering centric country, and the education system has all. That is the reason we see so many young people joining this crypto industry. So because of the advancement of the software and information technology, right? Understanding crypto, taking participation, being savvy has become very easy for Indians, and that is the driving factor. That and all this comes from education that we have seen. Myself, I came to know about crypto in 2012 when I was in college, and it was an active discussion.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible, and you have that story yourself. And what you touched on, I think everyone in the world looks to India and understands that you're technologically, or the technological education, as you said, is so far ahead of everywhere else, right? And what's incredible is that so many of the most impressive crypto projects are from India, but you're dealing with sort of the government in this strange way. It's got to be very challenging. Because but what you're saying sort of is that there's a general technological education, engineering, all those things, but you're not learning about crypto in school necessarily, or at least until college, right?
These days, that is changing. Wow. These days you would hear about Bitcoin from my niece, who is just 10 years old, in school right now, and this is changing fundamentally, and I think this is happening across the globe, not just India. But it's changing for sure, even in school. But again, the driving factor is the strength in the software industry.
Yeah, that totally.
Yeah, it's software.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. So I heard that in India, renewables might play a big role improving the infrastructure. Will it meet with crypto mining?
Well, right now, crypto mining is not allowed in India, simply because we have a view that crypto mining, of course, it takes a lot of energy, and India as a country need to grow its GDP in various other forms. It needs a lot of energy at the moment to grow its industrial space, grow its IT space, and all of it. So right now, in Bitcoin mining is not allowed in India, and so essentially you can put it in that way. India typically buys Bitcoin from outside. India never manufactures Bitcoin. So India has to buy Bitcoin from outside, but we are okay with it. We don't need to necessarily mine it at the moment. Moving forward, as soon as India as a nation has surplus energy, we would love to mine Bitcoin in some great numbers. And more importantly, India is, whenever it does, India is going to go for a renewable source of energy when mining Bitcoin. Simply because India has a great push for renewable energies, and we are moving really fast when it comes to renewable sources.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, especially what we're seeing across the world now, like El Salvador mining from volcanoes, whether that will happen or not, but it seems like that's an obvious, an obvious move for governments that have access to renewables or excess energy.
Yes, no volcanoes in India. I mean, otherwise we would have considered that.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess, but there hopefully will be other ways that are not volcanoes. So here's a question: will Bitcoin at some point become too scarce to be a world reserve currency? Would it make more sense for altcoins to also become bank-backed currencies?
That's a good question, right? And it's really good question. The way I think about it, Bitcoin or money. So money works in a layered manner, right? Money in the central, at the very heart, it consists of some, earlier it used to be consisting of gold and other valuable assets. Then comes various layers of money, and the money which we use typically is the third or the fourth layer, right? There is this central money which is backed by gold. Then there is money which is used for settlement between the central banks and the public banks. Then there is money, which is being used by us. So it's a layered structure. The way I see it, even if Bitcoin becomes scarce, and it will become scarce, that is the whole point. The Bitcoin would be layer one money. Layer one money, it would be the most precious money, right? And of course, then on top of it, you could have multiple altcoins derived, from Bitcoin, from the value of Bitcoin, which is being used by people for their regular purposes. Because you always have to have a balance between security, speed, right? There has to be a balance between that, and to maintain very high standards of security. Bitcoin may not be used as is directly for day-to-day transactions, right? There might be layers on top of Bitcoin, and these layers, high-speed layers, might consist of altcoins. So that's a fair possibility, and I can see that sort of structure evolving.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think, is the commerce accepting crypto now? I think what he's saying here is, are people actually transacting in crypto? Obviously, you guys see trading on your platform, but are merchants accepting it? Are you able to actually spend it and use it?
No, not really. To answer that question in more details, India has a long-standing debate about whether to consider Bitcoin as an asset class, just like gold or stocks, where people just invest in order to create some wealth or long-term investments, right? Versus, on the one hand, Bitcoin can be an asset class, and on the other, crypto and Bitcoin can play a role as a currency. As a currency, meaning where it's used for payments. But in India, the debate is about whether to consider it as an asset class or as a currency. And India has voted already. We have had a lot of discussions with media, with the government. We are all comfortable with considering this as an asset class at the moment, right? And not use it in competition to the Indian rupees. use it just as an asset class where people can invest and then buy and sell, right? And let INR do the payments for e-commerce, commerce, etc. So that is something, that kind of structure is evolving in India at the moment,
So
and
for
it's very
yeah.
yeah.
So for now, you don't have the real adoption. I mean, it's very rare in any country, but like in the United States, obviously we're seeing, PayPal allow merchants to accept it. So at least there's the chance. Our tax structure is not favorable towards spending your crypto, of course. But so you're saying it really hasn't happened yet at all, and it would need to be viewed as a currency rather than an asset class for that to eventually happen.
That will eventually happen, that might eventually happen as we see this growing, as we see this asset class growing, the adoption growing, the government become more and more comfortable understanding how it works, precisely, because it's a very sensitive matter. Payments industry is a highly regulated and very rule oriented, has evolved for a couple of decades in the past, right? So Bitcoin as an asset class will start from here, and then eventually, of course, we all are believers in the open finance and the decentralized finance. So eventual goal, of course, is to that all the finance would be replaced by crypto.
Yeah, this is an interesting note. On this note, a lot of youngsters entering the crypto space. We're noticing a lot of FOMO buyers in India lately without sufficient basic TA knowledge. Maybe virtual academies required soon. I can first say I don't think that you need to know technical analysis at all. So I don't think that that's something you should even teach people. You should probably teach people to invest slowly their extra money and let it grow over a long time. But it is interesting, and that echoes what we see everywhere in the world in every asset class, but it's rising, is that there is a lot of FOMO and people who buy things that they don't really understand. So do you agree that there's more, I guess, education required to help protect people from themselves?
Yes, absolutely. You're right, Ritik. There's a lot of FOMO buying, right, which happens. But I am not against FOMO buying at all, at least for crypto. Simply because if you buy in FOMO, but you hold it for a good enough time, for a couple of years, so empirically speaking, Bitcoin has given very good returns on the investment, right? Irrespective of the price that you are buying at, you hold it for 3 years, and you are going to get a very good return. So whether you buy it in FOMO or buy it, with all the technical analysis, my recommendation would be to buy it for a long term, to hodl, keep Bitcoin for a long term, and you will always come out as a winner, right? And of course, if you're an expert, you can always go for a TA, right? You can always take lessons from Scott's videos and go for more mature investing.
Yeah, it's funny. I always show TA and then I give the caveat that you should be an investor first and probably not even use it. But yes, I 100% agree with you. So this is something you touched on earlier, but it's an interesting question as to the future. In terms of net crypto ownership, India lags much behind, which we talked about 10 million people being a lot, but it's a very small percent of the population. How is CoinDCX looking at this and planning to change it?
So India lags behind in terms of the net ownership of crypto, right? So there is no public figure to really verify that. Although but I would say yes, there is a lot of growth potential, and I told you earlier, only 10 million people out of this 1.4 billion user base, only 10 million people have actually invested in the asset class. This is a very small number in terms of percentage, and a lot will come further. More importantly, when Bitcoin and all the other crypto assets become matured in India further, when it's fully regulated and so on and so forth, institutions will start investing. We are already seeing influx of institutions on CoinDCX. Already seeing a lot of interest from the institution side. I think the net ownership of crypto will really grow when the institutions, participation from the institutions grow. So as soon as it's a matter of few months, as soon as we are all regulated and the gray area is no more gray, institutions will come in and will have much bigger ownership, much bigger pie in terms of the crypto ownership. And as CoinDCX, we want to essentially we are already prepping ourselves to build those kinds of services. where we can serve institutions, we can make it easy for the institutions to buy Bitcoin. Companies who have a lot of money with them parked in the savings, with the traditional banks. We believe that even if they invest 1% of that in crypto, it's going to be hugely beneficial for them, and that is how the ownership of crypto will grow in India.
That's such an interesting point, because we keep talking about institutional adoption in the United States, and it seems so US centric, and then we don't talk about that happening in other countries. Do you think that you'll have a Michael Saylor MicroStrategy moment in India, where some huge company will put Bitcoin on their balance sheet and that will sort of spark that conversation in India?
Yeah, it's going to come, absolutely. This is something. So Indian institutions do want to invest. We are already seeing that kind of an interest. Larger institutions. So from stock markets, we have a lot of people who are very active in stock markets since decades. They handle a lot of funds. They have a lot of AUM. They want to invest in Bitcoin. They are already setting up, using the APIs and setting up the desks. And just waiting for a green light from the government. As soon as that happens, it's going to be a huge influx of institutional money in India. Scott, Indian derivatives market is very big. It's actually the biggest in terms of volume. So and it's driven by institutions. A lot of it's driven by institutions. So we see a bright future, and things like that would certainly happen. I mean, Tesla investing, and other couple of companies investing. It's going to happen.
If the volume in India is outstanding, and you guys are the largest liquidity aggregator in the world, right? I mean, CoinDCX. So
Yes.
is that, so when we're talking about institutions here, then I have a feeling we're talking about like Indian hedge funds and investments, and not like the Teslas or car companies and the corporations and things, right? So you're talking about really like traders and investors who are they effectively like Wall Street.
I'm talking about both, Scott, simply because even normal companies, they invest and they hold for a longer time, right?
Right.
And that is very important, simply because trading volume is somewhere related to the net asset holding. How much assets are being owned by India, in crypto, and trading volume would be proportional to that at the end of the day. So India as a country needs to invest for a long term in the asset class. That's very important. And as soon as that happens, a lot of trading activity will happen, and money making opportunities will come. And regular traders, people who trade very extensively, they don't hold it. They're here for money, right? At the end of the day, they're here for generating returns. So that would be facilitated. But for that, we need billions of dollars of assets into the industry.
That makes sense. The next question, there was some discussion about exchanges self-regulating with the help of India's Internet and Mobile Association. Has there been any progress on that front? That was kind of big news recently.
Yeah, there is a lot of progress. We already have a framework using which we can put in place the right set of rules, which will make the regulators comfortable. From the KYC AML side, from CFTs, CFT, FEMA side, Foreign Exchange Management Act side. So we have all these rules and regulations already prepared in association with the IAMAI, and we are, as an exchange, we are actively working on that. And at the moment, we are using that framework to go to the banks and discuss the way forward, so that we can build this industry in a very compliant manner.
This is a great question. Thank you for the content. What is the unbanked percentage of the population in India?
That's a number I won't have on my fingertips.
High.
But it's in absolute numbers, it's big. In percentage, it's low. But India has a very huge population. So roughly, I would give you a guess. Unbanked population would be roughly between 300 to 400 million. I mean, one United States would be unbanked population. But at the same time, we'll have 800 million to 1 billion people who are banked at the same time.
That's a much higher percentage than most places actually in the world. But obviously that begs the question, the structure and the laws in India, I'm assuming that the unbanked don't really have access necessarily to crypto, at least through any sort of like centralized medium like your exchange. Obviously you need to be able to get your money in from a bank account, correct? So you have to be connected to a bank account. So if you're unbanked, are there options in India to utilize crypto services or invest?
Not really. I mean, if you are unbanked, then it becomes challenging. There have been some cases where you can accept cash and sell Bitcoin. I mean, that is perfectly fine. Up to 50,000 rupees, you can accept cash and sell them Bitcoin. And that's going to be a possibility. That's not. It's challenging in terms of operations. For an exchange, it might not make. I mean, first we would like to tap the banked population, where and give them the access, let them have a very compliant access to the markets, right? And then go after having local branches, having operational branches to cater to the unbanked population. But that's something. I mean, we believe that crypto can play a big role when it comes to in financial inclusion. So that's something that that we would be aiming for. Just waiting for working towards the regulation side and moving forward. That's something that we will also target.
Perfect. A question from me. I'm curious, being in your position and hearing about all these challenges, it seems like every day something you completely haven't planned for must just like be thrown on your lap and say, deal with it. I'm curious, what are the biggest challenges for you? Obviously, running the biggest exchange in India with all these different laws and regulatory issues, and then just even I'm sure the technological issues of filling orders and all those things. What are your biggest challenges?
That's a good question, Scott. There are a couple of big challenges. So day-to-day challenges, we have a lot of different challenges. To begin with, because of the uncertainty that we face. For example, a payment gateway goes down, right? Payment gateway no more supports crypto community, or a particular bank no more supports the community, and then they start supporting because of some changes, right? So we need to give a consistent service to our users. Consistent. I mean, it has to be reliable. When people want to buy the dip, they want to buy the dip. They don't. We don't want a situation where they don't have the access to INR deposits or withdrawals at the right key moments, and that is what our main objective is, right? And to ensure that, we need to have a lot of challenges. I'll give you an example. When suddenly some of our key payment gateways pull the plug, right, recently because of the pressure from the RBI and simply because they wanted to be more compliant, so they wanted to take an off for like 15 days, 1 month. But we wanted to continue supporting our user base. We wanted to continue giving them the right services required. So we essentially went ahead and went ahead with a completely manual bank deposit method, right? Where person sends the money to our bank account with the reference number, and the person actually, our team actually sits behind the scenes, manually verify the transactions, whether the transaction is coming from the right customer, verified, and then credit to the user's wallet on CoinDCX platform. Now, we did this for millions of users. We did this for thousands of transactions every day. In fact, we did it for approximately more than 100,000 transactions every day. And we had to build an operational team in just a matter of few weeks. We had to build an operational team of hundreds of people, for this purpose. And that was a huge challenge for us. These are the kinds of challenges that we have.
That's crazy. So I have to ask though, because obviously any exchange, I mean, listen, Coinbase is a publicly traded company in the United States, and you can't buy the dip on Coinbase because it freezes every single time there's volatility, right? I mean, it's something that's common across the industry, and I think people just don't appreciate how difficult it probably is to build these tools that scale from scratch. That's my assumption. There's nothing sinister. It's just really hard, right? But it must be very frustrating for you. what you just described is going so far above and beyond anything I've ever heard to allow people to make a bank deposit. But you probably, all you hear, or at least you would notice, is like, when can I deposit my money? What's wrong? Why'd you guys shut off my deposits, right? I mean, people don't understand why. They just go on the platform, they can't deposit, and they freak out and don't understand how complex this is behind the scenes and how much you're doing. Is that frustrating? I mean, it just sounds to me like that would be incredibly frustrating.
I mean, from the community perspective, it's we love the community, and we are never really frustrated with the community. Even if they complain, we just it's something we don't get frustrated about. Sometimes we get frustrated about things which are out of our control. For example, a banking channel going down, some kind of issues on INR front, etc. So that is frustrating, but this is something which we are up for, and we have signed up for. This is something that when we started the exchange, we very well knew that it's not going to be a smooth journey, but we didn't back off. I mean, this is the path we have chosen. So nothing stops us moving in this direction. And as such, whatever the challenge is, we will overcome the challenge. Of course, we always request the community to have the patience, because we, not just us, all the exchanges, we are doing our best at the moment, best possible, and working really hard. The whole team, I mean, not just the founders, not just the team, everyone, in the team is working really hard to make it an easy journey, because it's a matter of money, right? It's very important for people, for the community to understand that totally, and working really hard to make it all right. And the good news is it's going to be just a few weeks, it's a matter of few weeks, and INR channels, etc., are going to be all sorted.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So this is a good question. By making it, we talked about the difference between potentially identifying crypto as an asset class or as a currency, and sort of the ongoing and endless debate about that. Do you think by making it an asset class, the intention is to make it taxable? I mean, is it really about taxes?
It's actually, you're right, Shane. But that's not the intention. That's just an outcome. I mean, the intention is mainly to control the payments in a much better fashion. Simply because it's not well tested as a payment method. As a currency, it's not yet well tested. And India is again, it's very understandable from the regulator's point of view that you must first of all. Let it develop as an asset class, and then let us gain some kind of a confidence on this asset class, on the functions, on the technology, and then use it for the payments. Payments is very, very critical for any economy, right? So you don't want a country may not want to use it for the payments directly, but use it, rather let its citizen just invest in the asset class for the wealth creation purpose. And yes, that becomes taxable as an outcome. That becomes taxable. You pay the capital gains tax. Or in
By the way, I just have to say this comment that we just got, I love it. Thank you for this. I started to abuse one of my exchanges for problems. I now feel guilty of making staff responsible. And I don't think you should feel guilty. I mean, it's your money, and people, obviously, they demand the best service. I think it's just important to understand how hard people might be working to fix the problems, and that the problem, I mean, if the problem's coming from the bank, what can you do, right? There's only so much, and you went and made it manual, which to me is absolutely just incredible. There was a great question up here. I just scrolled down, and I will find it. Here's one. Like, people don't understand the usage. Many of them don't have trust of decentralization. What's your view? I guess the question being, in India, maybe if you don't really understand it, you outright just don't trust it because decentralization sounds scary. I mean, do you think that it's moving in that direction where people will better understand these assets?
That's a great question. In fact, you remember the 1995s of internet, right? When people used to, even before that, people used to use internet via terminals. There was no concept of GUI. And it was very difficult for people to access internet. A layman like you or me, we could not access internet. I mean, it would be very difficult to have a room-sized machine and just type some letters onto the mammoth keyboard and just communicate. That was the challenging time even for internet. I think this DeFi is at the same stage. I think there is an accessibility problem in the decentralized finance at the moment. Not a lot of people can access it. Everybody knows Uniswap, but very few people use Uniswap simply because, or any other decentralized protocols, because there is an accessibility problem. It's not easy to access and take participation in the decentralized protocols. You cannot do it via a simple app. You have to store the private key. You have to take the risk of holding assets on your mobile phone. It could run into millions of dollars. And so there are some challenges, security as well as accessibility. I believe this is going to change in future. I believe that this accessibility problem would be solved, and decentralized would just become just like internet. How you use and interact with internet, you would start interacting with decentralized finance just like that, as simple as that. And that is when you will see trust growing. That is when you will see the uses growing for the DeFi system ecosystem, and it's going to be pretty soon. I think a few years.
I mean, that makes so much sense. I can certainly speak to my own experience. I mean, the first time that you have to get a MetaMask wallet, because you go to Uniswap, if the first time, maybe you don't even understand that you need a third-party wallet, right? You go and you say, where can I deposit or where can I do all these things? It's really just for people who are very passionate. It's not for your everyday person, right? And so, like you said, I think it's a matter of infrastructure, right? Just making it as simple as possible for your average person, so it reminds them of going on PayPal or going to their banking app or something, and they don't have to think about it. I mean, that really is the issue.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, very soon you would have all the DeFi across, and you won't even realize it that it's DeFi. It would just add value.
Yeah, kind of like you don't think about how your phone works, and like you said, you don't think about how the internet works anymore. There has to become a time where you don't think about how it works. You just use it on an app like you would any other app. That makes some great sense. So Boss gave us some great statistics, by the way, from our earlier conversation. So over 80% of Indians now have bank accounts, that's astounding, with about 190 million unbanked adults approximately. Internet penetration rate as of 2020, which is last year, 50%. Smartphone stands at 42%. That's actually lower than I would have guessed for smartphone and higher than I would have guessed for banking.
So it just shows that a lot of people who don't have access to smartphones, they have banking access, right?
Yeah.
Simply because in India, the Reserve Bank of India has a policy. To open a bank branch in the city, you need to open X number of bank branches in the villages. And for any banks. So this is a rule, and so for every branch that a bank opens in the city, they need to open a branch in the village, in a ratio. So that is the reason, that 80% of Indians are banked today, have bank accounts. That's a good number. Thanks, Abbas, for that number. So in fact, for the previous question, out of 1.4 billion population, 80% of the people have bank accounts today, which is a great encouraging number.
Huge. I think that's huge. I'd be curious to see what it is in the United States, but I would imagine that it's not much better. But that actually, the structure you just described is sort of opposite of what I've heard about in a lot of countries. There's a lot of places where we hear about people just never really were banked or were unbanked or underbanked, and then they got a phone and they skipped banking completely and just went to their phone. So you've got to imagine when the smartphone penetration rate gets to 60, 70, 80%, that's when we'll start to see potentially a move out of the sort of legacy banking system and into more decentralized systems and DeFi and things like that. So there's a lot of countries in the world where people live on crypto and it's all on their phone and they don't even have electricity.
Yes, that's a good use case, but that's good. I mean, DeFi, I think, is much more than that. It's much more than a bank account. I feel that DeFi has much bigger, values to provide for us as humans, simply because it gives us access to transparent and secure access to so many, financial tools. Not just a savings account, but much more than that. You can trade, you can lend and borrow at your fingertips. You can in a transparent manner. So all of that is still something which just a simple bank account cannot provide. So DeFi still has a lot of value to provide, to people who even have bank accounts. So I don't see that as a challenge. I think DeFi will still grow despite people having bank accounts.
So this is interesting. Indians traditionally invest in gold, real estate, fixed deposits. I observed during COVID, youngsters stepped into equities and crypto. Generation would really explore opportunities. Is that true historically of Indian investors? Do you think that they look at gold and real estate? Because you would think if they look at gold, that's a good gateway into understanding Bitcoin potentially.
Yes, this is so true, Naveen and Scott. Indians have so India pays a lot in terms of the import bill. I mean, India has a lot of gold imports on an annual basis, running into a few tens of billions of dollars, and that's precisely because Indians have a lot of interest in the gold for jewelry and for holding, as an investment. So it's there, and I believe that is precisely why Bitcoin has a huge potential in India, because gold and Bitcoin are very similar in nature as an asset class. Gold is a universal asset class for investment, for holding, for it's a collectible where you collect your wealth, and store it for generations to come. I think Bitcoin plays a very similar role, and that is why Indians, I believe, Indians are going to have a high affinity for Bitcoin simply for this reason. And yes, I mean, stock brokers in India have reported tremendous amount of growth during the pandemic. Tremendous, and all driven by youngsters. And so is the case with the cryptocurrency exchanges like CoinDCX. So negative or positive, it's a huge plus sign. I think Indians are going to really invest a great deal of money in cryptos in the coming times.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm just curious. I mean, how do that many people store their gold? I've never been a huge gold bug myself, just a little bit here and there, but I find the prospect of storing it, especially if you don't trust your bank, is very, very scary, right? I mean, I think storing Bitcoin is a lot easier, certainly.
That's a good question, Scott. It's the Indians have believe in jewelry. So, for example, my mother, she owns some gold, and it's in the form of jewelry, right? They wear it. So women, typically the gold is actually owned by the women of India. They use it in the form of bangles and various jewelry forms. And since it's jewelry, they also keep it very safe, simply because at the end of the day, it's being regularly used for occasional functions and occasional parties, etc. So we keep it very safe. But this is how we invest in gold. People just buy some jewelry in India, right? And today, you can also buy digital gold. So, for example, I can go to an app, say for example Paytm, and I can simply, in a matter of seconds, I can just swipe and buy a lot of gold, millions of dollars worth, in a matter of minutes. So that's the new method which is emerging. So gold is becoming, and it's very similar to Bitcoin. How you can buy Bitcoin today, gold is also accessible in that way.
That makes perfect sense. So, I mean, we've now seen El Salvador say Bitcoin is legal tender, right? And they're kind of the first to do that. Do you think that we're going to see a lot of countries doing that? I think it's kind of similar when Michael Saylor, said MicroStrategy was going on in. I thought there was going to be this huge rush of companies, and it's kind of been a slow trickle, right? I thought it would be in Tesla, and I thought we would see hundreds of them, honestly, by now. Do you think that we're going to see it to be very slow, or do you think we're going to see a lot of countries starting to adopt it as legal tender?
I think, countries which are smaller in sizes, with a lot of remittance. So, for example, a lot of countries may not want to rely on, say, US dollar, right, for their remittances. A lot of countries having their diaspora spread across the globe, might benefit from adopting Bitcoin or any other crypto, for remittances. So it might favor them. It might cut costs, banking costs, and it might be useful in saving cost plus speed. The speed of transaction is much faster when you are transferring money from anywhere in the globe to your home country. So I think countries where GDP, a significant percentage of GDP comes from the remittances, they have a very high chances of adopting Bitcoin very soon. And El Salvador, let's wait for a few months how it turns out to be. I mean, no one knows how it will turn out to be. This is a very bold step, by the country, and we're in the right direction. I think people will wait and watch.
Other countries, I think so too. Now you have a chance to let somebody else bear all of the risk and see how it plays out before. So I guess the eyes of the world will be on them. So very specifically about your exchange, I'm curious, if there's anything you want to share about what you guys are building for the future. Obviously, we talked about all of the challenges, but as you go to scale, are there new features or anything that you want to talk about that you think the community would be excited about?
Sure, Scott. That's something I would love to share. So on the platform, even today, CoinDCX is a very unique model. For the Indian market, people can invest, buy and sell. Retail people, anybody, even if you want to invest 10 rupees worth, in the crypto, you can do so via the platform. Very small amounts, up to, and we also serve institutions, very large amounts. You can buy millions of dollars of worth of crypto from the CoinDCX platform today. And we are not limiting ourselves to just simple buying and selling. We already have enabled staking services. You can, for example, you can already stake your Ethereum in the Ethereum.
Seems we may have lost his signal there, so I will go ahead and hope that he reappears very soon, because that was very interesting stuff. I really find this so interesting in general to see how different countries handle all of these problems. It still sounds like there's not that much clarity in India, but that things are moving in the right direction for sure. I'm hoping that Neeraj will be able to come back. I'm curious, are some of you guys in the comments, are you users of the platform? It seems that we do have a lot of people from India that are in the comments here. And in the meantime, if you guys have any specific questions for me, I know somebody had one above, which I will go try. I didn't look at it because obviously I was trying to get questions going for Neeraj and not for myself. This was more of a Bitcoin question. Scott, how can one keep a long-term view on Bitcoin with all this uncertainty, forced to trade short-term? I think the long-term view for Bitcoin never changes, and that's the beauty of it, right? These dips are not that important, so we just kind of take them as they come. And if you have a short-term view, you can trade it. But in general, I would say that we keep the long-term view as intact, and that markets tend to rise over time. I think Neeraj came back. We got you back. Got cut off there. Welcome back. You made me improvise. That was fun. But go ahead. You got cut off, obviously, when you were talking about staking services.
Yes. So as I was saying, CoinDCX already offers for the Indian people, staking services. We can stake Ethereum and a few other assets on the platform, and we'll be growing these services much beyond, much further. People can also lend their assets. You can lend Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, and XRP, LTC, and so on and so forth. So many assets that you can lend if you are holding for a long term. So most interestingly, after when you want to buy and sell crypto assets, we provide many different options as well. You can, for example, you can buy on leverage. That means that we also offer margin trading as a product. People who want to, who have confidence on their strategies can leverage the margin trading services of CoinDCX to multiply the gains. And of course, you have to be very cautious about the risks involved. But that is one. We are already scaling our futures, where we offer perpetual swaps on top currencies, And the good part is, Scott and others, I mean, what we are doing is we understand that crypto markets are very fragmented. Even today, you would see so many different exchanges like Binance, QOB, Coinbase, Kraken, and exchanges coming out of India. So we are doing liquidity aggregation at a global level. That means a person needs to just create an account on CoinDCX, and then you can access any of the markets on any of these platforms, without actually creating account on any of the platforms. You can simply register on CoinDCX, deposit your assets on just one platform, and trade anywhere across. Right? That is something that we are working on. Our engineering and technology team and the product team is working on, right? And we will very soon launch it at the global level. The good part is we will also be working on enabling DeFi access. So with the same interface, you would also be able to access the DeFi protocols. You would be able to access Binance, you would be able to access Coinbase, and you would be able to access the DeFi protocols via a very similar interface without moving much of the funds here and there. So with all the security, that's something, a global product that we are working on. Apart from the Indian market, and a lot of exciting things are going to come up.
That's all really exciting. Yeah, I mean, I read that you guys are the biggest liquidity aggregator, like I said, in the world, which is a pretty crazy statistic that you guys are able to do that and that you require that much liquidity. But that's one of the biggest challenges still for crypto, obviously, is just that it's almost every single market is its own market. Like you have, as you said, you have all these exchanges, you have the different regulation in every country, you have all these different things. So it's depending on where you are, it can be a very different experience from one country to another. I can only say that in the United States, our taxes are insane, right? And you can move, well, you can't as an American, but if you live in Portugal, you basically pay no taxes on your crypto, right? So what's the tax structure in India? I'm curious.
So tax structure is at the moment for crypto, it's not very well defined, right? But we request our users to pay the highest bracket. I mean, pay the capital gains tax, pay in the range of basically pay 30% tax on your profits, and that I think is the safest approach. That is what we recommend to our users. It's not very well defined by the government, but in retrospective, it would be better if we pay the best possible taxes to the government, so that government also it's beneficial. It's going to be beneficial for the overall community. Taxation is very important. We should pay taxes, and tax slab is not defined, so recommend highest, going for the highest slab.
That's basically how we approach it here. So we've had a couple people ask you to speak in Hindi, which I know would be hard for most of our audience. I know we're running out of time. I don't know if you have any final thoughts, because we are running out of time. If you'd like to give them in English and in Hindi to the India, because I think a huge amount of the people listening probably would love to hear that.
I would love to, like हिंदी में बात करने में बहुत मजा आएगा, और हिंदी में बात करके अपनापन लगता है बहुत ज्यादा. ऐसा लगता है कि हम हमारे भाइयों और बहनों से बात कर रहे हैं. तो बिल्कुल यार, जरूर हिंदी में जरूर बात करना चाहूंगा सबसे, हमेशा के लिए. इंग्लिश में बात इसलिए करते हैं जिससे कि अपन सबसे बात कर सके, सब लोगों को समझ में आए. इंग्लिश ज्यादा एक्सेप्टेड है, इंग्लिश ज्यादा लोग समझते हैं, इंडिया के बाहर भी सब लोग समझते हैं. सो इसलिए अपन इंग्लिश यूज करते हैं. बट अपनी मातृभाषा तो हिंदी ही है, और घर में भी हम हिंदी में ही बात करते हैं. ऑफिस में भी एक दूसरे से बहुत ज्यादा हिंदी में बात करते हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि इंग्लिश में बात करते हैं पूरे टाइम. हिंदी में बहुत ज्यादा बात करते हैं, और हिंदी में भी अपन कभी डिस्कशन कर सकते हैं. एक बार पहले मैंने हिंदी में भी एक सेशन किया था कहीं और, आई थिंक 6 महीने पहले के आसपास किया था. वापिस से फिर कभी मौका पड़ेगा तो मैं जरूर हिंदी में डिस्कशंस करना चाहूंगा, और आप सभी से करना चाहूंगा. थैंक यू.
Yeah, I don't know if you have any parting thoughts for everybody who's listening in English. That would be great too. But anything that you'd like to add here before we're done, because you gave us so much incredible insight, but maybe I missed something.
I mean, I would recommend everybody to just view Scott's videos. Scott gives so many amazing insights on how the markets are behaving, how the globe is reacting, how the world is reacting to various crypto events. And I am a big fan of Scott. I have been watching Scott's videos on YouTube. I've been recently following Scott on Twitter as well. But on YouTube, I've been watching since a long time, and I'm a big fan. So it's not a bad idea to follow Scott before taking a decision of investment.
I appreciate that. I was looking for final thoughts that you wanted to share about what you guys are doing, but that was very, very flattering. So absolutely amazing. So I would love to continue to do this down the road, and keep updated. I'm following you obviously on Twitter as well. And I just think that it's really nice to get a voice that's on the ground and understands, because generally you find in this community that you get sort of a fake story and then it spreads out of control, and it's a bunch of like mainstream media in the United States running with a story in a country that they don't understand. And so it really is, it's great to hear about it. It sounds to me as a summation that things are moving in the right direction and that there's some confidence. I mean, is that accurate? Do you believe, your gut feeling is that India is moving in the right direction, and even though it's a bit slow, that they'll eventually get there?
Yes, it's not just a gut feeling. It's a proper, it's very, we are very certain that India is moving in the right direction, and it is going to accept crypto as an asset class. We are very confident about it, and we are just building, our platform to so that we can support so many crypto users. We can support the community. At the end of the day, we are very sure people don't need to be afraid about a ban in India. It's just not going to happen. Crypto industry in India is too big to fail, too big to be banned. The government would not risk losing so many votes. At the end of the day, it's people's choice. Whatever we do, whatever government does, it's people's choice. So we don't need to be afraid of it, really.
That's the greatest conclusion I could ever ask for, because I think that putting that out of people's minds is the most important thing that we can potentially do. And I have to say that even if you guys get 20% of India trading on your platform, that would be, as large as the population of the United States almost. I think it's just mind-boggling the potential that you guys have probably as a platform. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me, dispelling some myths and giving us quite a bit of hope, I think, for the future. And obviously, congratulations on everything you've built. And I know that your community is very excited to see what you guys have coming in the future.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, everyone, for your time today.
Until next time, everybody, I will be live streaming actually again today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check that out. And until then, thank you again and see you guys soon.
Let's go.